Welcome to this short presentation which will explore the themes and perspectives in international development and education. Introduction. Specifically, this presentation will identify how initiatives such as the Education for All initiative how they supported learners of the world by providing a quality education to all. UNESCO defines education as the process of facilitating learning or the acquisition of knowledge, skills, values, beliefs and habits. Quality education specifically entails issues such as appropriate skills development, gender parity, provision or relevant school infrastructure, equipment, educational materials and resources, scholarships or teaching force. Currently, 57 million children remain out of school, and because this number is so high, initiatives such as Education for All were created to provide greater access to education across the globe. This film will analyse whether the Education for All initiative has had a positive or negative impact on providing education for countries around the world. To do this, the film will look at the following three key areas to provide a balanced and structured analysis which will answer the previously stated research question. These key areas include what the Education for initiative is and why is it needed, what comes after the Education for All initiative, the next step towards providing education for all. Section 1. What is the Education for All initiative and why is it needed? The Education for All initiative was launched in 1990 and its overall goal was to bring the benefits of education to every citizen in every society, and it aimed to achieve this goal by 2015. How was this goal going to be achieved? In order to achieve this ambitious goal, government, societal groups and development agencies such as UNESCO meaning the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, and groups such as the World Bank Group set out 6 clear sub-goals. These goals were known as Millennium Development Goals and included: number 1, to expand and improve comprehensive early childhood care and education; number 2, to ensure that by 2015 all children, particularly girls, and those in difficult circumstances such as ethnic minorities, had access to completely free and compulsory primary education of good quality; number 3, that the learning needs of all young children and adults are met through the equitable access to appropriate learning and life skills programme; and number 4, to achieve a 50% improvement in adult literacy by 2015, especially for women; number 5, to eliminate gender disparities in primary and secondary education by 2005, and finally number 6, to improve all aspects of quality of education. Why are initiatives such as Education for All needed? Although the Education for All initiative has made progress in getting countries to align with the Millennium Development Goals, several clear challenges remain. Here are some statistics which show why initiatives such as Education for All are needed to be put into place. As of 2014, there are an estimated 250 million children around the world who are unable to read and write, even though a large percentage of these children have spent 3 or more years in school. In 2012, 58 million children were out of school, half of these lived in conflict-affected areas. In sub-Saharan Africa, girls accounted for 56% of school children who were out of school in 2012. In 2011, only 60% of countries have achieved gender parity. In one-third of countries, fewer than 75% of primary school teachers were trained according to national standards. And finally, in 2011, around half of young children had access to pre-primary education in sub-Saharan Africa. What is being done to achieve education for all? The World Bank Group and UNESCO are supporting the Education for All initiative through multidimensional efforts to improve education quality and learning outcomes, to improve primary school access, to improve the dropout and retention rates of girls, to promote early childhood development, and more specifically, the World Bank Group helps countries to achieve their educational goals through finance and knowledge services in the forms of analytical work, policy advice and technical assistance. Section 2. What comes after the Education for All initiative? How the Education for All initiative failed to meet its targets. Education for All scheme has failed to meet its targets, says UNISECO. 15 years after 164 countries agreed to work towards the Education for All initiative, just 1/3 of these countries have achieved the 6 goals set. Meanwhile, the global focus on universal primary education has diverted the attention from other crucial areas, such as education quality, adult literacy, and early childhood care. Child 12. A statement from a spokesperson from UNISECO declared that, despite not meeting the 2015 deadline, millions more children are in school than would have been had the trends of 1990 persisted. However, the agenda is far from finished, said Irina Bokov, UNISECO's Director General. She continued to suggest that we need to see specific, well-funded strategies that prioritise the poorest, especially girls, improve the quality of learning and reduce the literacy gap so that education becomes meaningful and universal. The Millennium Development Goal in Education stated that by 2015 all boys and girls should have completed a full course of primary education. However, although the MDGs have been praised for focusing international attention on specific development needs, UNISECO said that this emphasis on primary education negatively affected the Education for All policy once the Millennium Development Goals became the dominant agenda. Despite these failures, UNISECO declared that the Education for All initiative can be deemed as a qualified success. The spokesperson continued to suggest that a lesson re-emerging over the past 15 years, while technical solutions are important, gaining political influence and traction is even of greater significance, particularly to realise the scale of reform and action required to educate for all at the national level. The current discussions on the post-2015 agenda may be offering just such a chance. Despite all efforts by governments, civil societies and the international community, the world has not yet achieved education for all. On the positive side, an estimated 34 million more children will have attended school as a result of faster progress. Section 3. The next step towards providing education for all. After the failure of the Education for All initiative, a new agenda was put into position that placed emphasis on different areas to reach its goals. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which was adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015, provides a blueprint for bettering the lives of people around the world, now and into the future. Sustainable Development set out 17 new goals, known as Sustainable Development Goals. These goals range from ensuring that there is clean water across the globe for people, and that they aim to cure world hunger. More specifically, the fourth goal on this list was to provide quality education to every person in the world. In more detail, target indicators were placed which act as a starting point to set out what the goal should actually do and how it should be completed by 2030. These included: all children will have access to completely free, equitable and quality primary and secondary education. There will be equal access for all women and men to affordable, quality, technical, vocational, education, including university, and finally the elimination of gender disparities in education to ensure equal access to all levels of education and vocational training for the vulnerable, including persons with disabilities, indigenous people, and children in vulnerable situations. To achieve this goal of providing quality education to learners around the world, UNISECO found that it was beneficial to provide an understanding that there is a difference between providing a person access to education and providing that same person access to quality education. In UNISECO's Provisional Agenda report, it stated that there is a frequent and common misunderstanding that access to education must always be of a high quality. There is evidence in some cases that learners are not taking advantage of places of education, such as schools, even though they were available to them, as learning is not in their current needs and is not in their future needs. With this in mind, UNISECO proposed the following points. Educational access and quality are distinct concepts. These two concepts are linked, especially when supply and demand are considered. While quality is impossible without access, access without quality is often meaningless to those whose access is made possible. With these points established, UNISECO's interest is the outcome for education is that by providing access is critical, but not meaningful without any evidence of learning. UNISECO is the only united agency that covers all aspects of education, from initial education such as nursery schooling to higher education like universities, whilst also providing technical and vocational education and training, non-formal education and literacy skills. The organisation focuses on increasing equity and access, improving quality, and ensuring that education develops knowledge and skills in areas such as sustainable development. It coordinates the Education for All movement, tracks education trends, and raises the profile of educational needs on the global development agendas. UNISECO works to increase access and participation in primary level education for out-of-school children, with a particular focus on the Middle East, Asia, and South Asia regions. In 2012, UNISECO successfully enrolled 37,353 out-of-school children over the 3-year period in the country of Iraq. To conclude, UNISECO provides global and regional leadership in education. It strengthens education systems worldwide and responds to contemporary global challenges through education with gender equality and underlying principle. A statement which has been included to summarise this video has been found from Helen Clark, the UNDP administrators, which summarises why education is important by stating that in our world, knowledge is power, and education empowers. It is an indispensable part of the development equation. It has intrinsic value extending far beyond the economic, to empower people to determine their own destiny. This is why the opportunity to be educated is central to advancing human development. Thank you for listening.